Welcome. Today we're going to talk about cloning. First thing you want to do, set yourself up a graduated bucket. This will make things much easier. Using a gallon jug, a Sharpie, and a 5-gallon bucket, you are going to empty the gallon jug into the bucket, mark where that 1 gallon mark is, fill it up with another bucket, mark where the 2-gallon mark is, fill it up again with a bucket, mark where the 3-gallon bucket is or 3-gallon mark is, and so forth and so on with your 4th gallon and your 5th gallon. This seems like a simple step. This will make things much easier for you down the road, making sure that you're mixing nutrients and stuff like that right. It's real easy to know where 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 gallons is in your 5-gallon bucket. So once you have all this marked out, you're going to use some clean water. You're going to take the clean water. I filled it here to about 3 gallons. You're going to add yourself some nutrients, really light nutrients for the soaking here. A little bit of CalMag. I use CalMag in everything that I grow. Calcium and magnesium supplement. It really helps with preventing things like blossom end rot on tomatoes, stuff like that. So I'm going to add a little bit of grow nutrient solution into this at this time. Keep in mind these amounts, I'm just putting a touch into the clean water in order to make sure that it has some nutrient value. After this, you're going to adjust your pH, or test and adjust your pH, and then you're going to throw in your cubes. These are 1.5-inch Rockwell cubes. I believe these are Grodan brand. You can push them down, get them to soak. They will eventually soak up all the water and sink to the bottom. You want to let them soak overnight. This is very important. The cubes are very high in pH. Grab yourself a dome. This dome is extremely important. You can find them at most garden supply stores, even at Walmart. Once you have the dome, you're going to go ahead and grab your Rockwell cubes. You're going to give them just the tiniest of squeezes, just to get a little bit of that water out. See, you're not going to change the shape of the Rockwell cube. If you squeeze too hard, you will squish the cube and change the shape. You're trying not to do that. You're just trying to get a little bit of the water out. You do still want them to be wet as they go in, but not soaking wet. So once you squeeze out each of the cubes a little bit, put them in your tray. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to grab a toothpick. You look at the little holes on the top, that's where your stems are going to go. I like to take a toothpick and just stick it down through the hole to make the hole go all the way almost to the bottom of the cube. You're not wiggling it around too much, just a little bit. You don't want to make that hole too big. It's real easy to make the hole too big. You still want it to grab your plant stem as you stick it in there. So once you have those, you're going to go ahead and get yourself some Olivia's cloning gel. Whereas there are lots of rooting hormones, Rutone, stuff like that, I really like Olivia's. I have tremendous luck with Olivia's. I stick with Olivia's. Then I'm going to grab myself something sharp to cut the clones with. Really, people suggest using a razor blade. I use scissors. I find it fine. People complain about crushing the stems. I don't find if you use a sharp scissor that you have too much issue with crushing. Not enough issue that it causes problems. So I heat up the scissors, wipe them off. Then I use a little alcohol, put it on a paper towel, wipe off my scissors again. Cleanliness, I think, is far more important than using a razor blade. So make sure they're really cleaned real well with the alcohol. Once I've got them cleaned up real well, I'm going to select my plant. I have my plant ready to go. I'm going to find myself a good junction. So you'll notice on your plants that you have these growing regions. You'll have little nodes or junctions where you'll see new growth coming out of, and then you have a stem in between those junctions. Well, what you're going to want to do is cut above one of those junctions, not damaging the material that is going to be left on your donor plant. So what I'm going to do here, as you see, is I'm taking this plant here, got a couple of growing junctions there. I see the one junction there that I want to be above. I get above it, 45-degree angle. We're just going to snip it right there. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take this and we are going to get some cloning gel about the depth of that cube onto this stem. So I'm going to go ahead and just dip it right in here. Now with this cloning gel, you might want to use gloves. You don't really want to get it on your skin. If you do get it on your skin, go ahead and wash it immediately. Stop what you're doing and wash it. Gloves are always safe, but it is what it is. Go ahead and stick it in the cloning gel, stick it in your cube, almost to the bottom. I like to mark my cubes with a Sharpie so that I know what varietal is in the tray. Next thing we want to do is grab another one, and we're going to continue doing the same thing we do. So we grab the plant, find our growing nodules. We're going to go right above one of the growing nodules, 45-degree angle, snip it. If you missed a 45-degree angle, you can snip it after the fact, just taking a little bit more off of the stem, not going to hurt anything. Sometimes this cloning gel doesn't like to necessarily stick to the stem. You want to make sure that you get some on there before you stick it in the cube. So once we get it, there's number 2. We're going to do this with a couple of more, marking them again with what varietal you have. Again, same type of situation. Dip it in, cut the clone, dip it in the cloning solution, stick it in the cube. We're going to do this a couple of more times until we're done, and then we will move on to keeping these humid. The biggest thing you need to do is keep the container humid. That does not mean you want standing water. When you have standing water, that will cause all sorts of problems, mold, fungus, stuff like that. You're trying to avoid that. Right now, these cuttings are competing with things like mold and fungus in order to grab hold of life and continue on. You don't want them to have to compete with those things. Once you're done cutting them and putting them into cubes, go ahead and arrange them. You don't want them to be touching the edges. They can touch each other a little bit, but I prefer to make sure that they're not touching. Grab yourself a spray bottle, grab your dome. Best thing to do, spray the inside of your dome. This is how you're going to get the humidity to stay inside without having too much on your plants itself. Nice fine mist, go ahead and fill up the container with a little bit more mist and close it up. You don't want a lot of water sitting on the bottom. It sitting on the dome like that, causing that little fog there, will keep the humidity levels high inside and will allow your clones to get their moisture from their leaves as opposed to their roots, which they have none yet. Every day, open it up, take a look inside, go ahead, if it needs water, go ahead and spray it. Again, I like spraying it up onto the top of the container as much as I do spraying it onto plants themselves. I just think it holds better, and they tend to keep their humidity in there more. Too much humidity, go ahead and open the dome. Once you've let them sit for a couple of weeks, roots are going to pop out the bottom. Once you start seeing the roots popping out the bottom, you're ready to go. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.